So, really, really excited about the next session. Um, we consider that all of our One Young World counselors are stars, but some of them are real stars, as is the person I'm about to bring up onto the stage. Adrien Grenier obviously is massively famous, having been in Entourage, having been in Devil Wears Prada, and is probably known by many people in the world for that, and that's why many people are in awe of him. But here at One Young World, we're in awe of him not because of that, but because of the things that he's actually doing. Um, and his whole movement shift, which he's going to talk to us about driving responsible consumption and eco-consciousness, and many of the things that he's doing, and also many of the things he's doing in partnership with businesses to help them, has been phenomenal. So I'd love to bring to the stage Adrian, and I'm going to be asking him some questions.
Got my fluids.
Yeah, no, that's good. The water's good. So obviously a few questions I'd like to ask you, but maybe just a kind of big picture one to kick off in terms of where did it all begin for you, and when did you realize that you could use your high profile to drive some good and change in the world?
Well, I've actually been doing this kind of work for a long time. I guess about 20 years, believe it or not. And I've gone through many different evolutions. In my early 20s, I was very radical, as you're want to be at that age. Very aggressive, militant, getting into fights with the checkout girl for double bagging my bread that already was in a bag. And I was, obsessed in a lot of ways. And the sounds of the bags would really get to me at the core. And I was really, upset by it. It really hurt to know that we were, destroying the planet. Um, and it wasn't even purposeful. It was just ignorance. It was just not knowing. And so I took it upon myself to educate her in that moment. And in very aggressive, loud, and like just insensitive ways. And by the look on her face, in her eyes, in retrospect, I was a crazy person. I was that guy who had walked into her life and expected everything from her, and she didn't even know what I was talking about. She didn't even comprehend it. She's like, I'm doing my job. I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to pay rent. I'm just trying. So I went through that period, and then I collapsed. I couldn't handle it anymore. It was just too emotionally draining. And so I went to apathy. So what happens when something's too overwhelming, we shut down, we bottle it up, and I just didn't care anymore. And that period lasted for a long time, but we all know that's not healthy. So I finally grew up a little bit, and I realized, I came to center, and I realized I can't do it alone. I can't hold the weight of the world on my shoulders. I need to do it with other people, and I need to do what I can do, just a little bit every day, a little bit as much as I can, and with the support of others. And that's when I created shift.com, which is all about those small changes. It's about the shifts, the subtle shifts. If you're going on a long journey, which I think we are on, change is often a long process. That first step starts with a shift in weight. So let's just start with that first. And
So tell us a bit about Shift and about the change in consumer consciousness you've seen or not over the years.
yeah, so we also wanted, I'd been on Entourage for a while, and we made conspicuous consumption very sexy. And I was like, why is conscious consumption still kind of corny? This tree huggery thing. We need something that's cool and sexy, accessible, aspirational, that isn't preachy. And so we set out to really frame sustainability as a lifestyle that was exciting and fun and doable. And we believe that money is energy, When people are paid for something, you're buying their effort. And the way our current economic system is, we're buying a lot of effort to do some really horrific things around the planet. So we said, well, why don't we think like capitalists and find the economic solutions to the problem? Let's find the let's use our, our education from when we're born all the way till we have to get a job to be, riding this hamster wheel of making money, but let's redirect it towards something positive. So we started looking out in the world, and we were a little bit ahead of the curve. When we first started pitching Shift, people were like, "No one wants to see that stuff. It's it'll never take flight." And we started seeing that there were it was in the zeitgeist. There were all these amazing entrepreneurs and companies that were doing it, and on a small scale, but doing it. And so we just started showing their work and highlighting them and giving them a platform, and that's how it began.
And in terms of a lot of the way people look at this, it's much more about the criticism of the bad behavior and the blame rather than actually encouraging people to make positive choices. How do you think we can encourage people to make better informed decisions?
Through conflict, we will always be in conflict. I really think the only way to evolve is through collaboration and community support and mutual support. We need to be, I think, realistic and aware that there are some major issues that we're facing, but let's not let them overwhelm us. Let's not let them daunt us. And I think we need to first have the passion and the gall to believe that we can change, but we also need to be humble enough to know we can't do it alone. I think we also need to be compassionate for others when they don't know they can change yet, and I think also show a great amount of forgiveness to ourselves when we're not there now immediately, and to really recognize that it's not about just doing the right thing. It's about really shifting who we are as a people, and it starts with us individually and changing our lifestyle so that it's not a set of prescriptions that you check off and then you go to church on Sunday and you say your Hail Marys and then you go off and sin the rest of the week. This is something we do every day, something we have to really embody.
So talk a little bit about that, because obviously a lot of that we're talking about in the video on COP was all about big government. What can each individual do specifically on a daily basis to help be part of the solution?
Yeah, so I just said it's not a list of to-dos. That being said, there are some great to-dos out there, and I'm always discovering them every day and learning from others. And you've brought a lot of those others here, which is awesome. But I think I created this foundation called the Lonely Whale Foundation, and it's about a whale that speaks another language. Well, he's our mascot, our inspiration. And he's a real whale that swims out in the Pacific, and he speaks another language at a different frequency than other whales. So he's been calling out his whole life without receiving a response. And knowing that whales are highly sentient and social, just like humans, we can empathize. We can imagine he must be lonely. We know what that's like to be left out or be screaming, telling the world what's going on, and no one's listening. So he has become our mascot of the disconnect that we all experience, especially being environmentalists. And so I think first and foremost, my advice would be find a partner, a single partner. Find someone, connect with one person, and hold each other accountable. Collaborate, connect, share, shift, share ideas. You don't have to change the whole entire world overnight. Just change each other. Start with that, and then that community will grow. And through Shift, we've done a lot of cultural things. And one thing that we always enjoyed was having dinner parties. Dinner parties specifically designed to talk about these things and to connect on the things that matter to us. And we would curate them with sustainable products and and foods, and we would all come and we would talk about what we discovered at the farmers market, or what new sustainable item that we were excited about. And I think food is a really great connector. It's when you come together, you break bread. It's something we do all the time. So if you can really embed your thinking around food, it'll happen often. So I would say, find friends, eat with them, share with them, and use food as a great connector.
So you're talking about what we can do individually to change. There's obviously a bunch of people whose opinions it would be nice to change, who are the climate change deniers that you talk about and are in politics. And I won't head down the very obvious and easy Donald Trump path. But what can we do to help try and change some of the old world thinking from the climate change deniers?
I really believe that the climate change deniers are very few. Unfortunately, the way media works, they sound big. We give them equal time on the airwaves. But it's just simply not true. And I think it's maybe a little bit of a leap of faith, but also statistically speaking, we are on the right side of history. I've always had this philosophy, and maybe it's not the right one. You guys can argue with me. I'm not really worried about dismantling dying giants or dying dinosaurs. And I really believe the oil industry, the climate change deniers, they're on the outs. We're growing. The wave is mounting. And I think we need to focus on how do we replace the systems that currently exist that have us in shackles? How do we create new products that replace old products? And really, for me, it's about thinking aspirationally, having a vision of how it can be, and then going out to build that. When we had the Industrial Revolution, we all bought into this idea that we could have a world where everybody was upwardly mobile. We all had jobs. We could build roads. We could build infrastructure, industry, and it was at the time a really exciting place to be. We all felt like we were part of the American dream. We need to change the dream and create a new vision of ourselves to aspire to. And I think green infrastructure and of course voting in that way, voting those values, and not being daunted when the media sphere tells you that you only have one choice or you can't vote your heart. And so I think very simply, definitely get out and vote, and don't vote for Donald Trump. Did I walk right back into that?
No, I think I think we're all sitting hoping that nightmare doesn't happen. But and do you see a generational difference still between the kind of response of the different generations to the whole subject?
I think it's undeniable. We're in the information age. Young people understand how to use technology a lot better than I do, certainly. And they're using it to connect with one another.
We had you in the young camp.
Big secret, not so young. But young at heart, for sure. I think we need to also, speaking of the younger generation, we need to learn how to not use technology as a isolating force. Too much are we distracted with reflections of ourselves, and we're not really articulating our pain or the things that we're going through that we need others to support us on. And that includes environmental woes. How many of us, show of hands, how many of you have taken a picture of your meal and hashtag food porn? Right? Come on, show of hands. Come on, don't be bashful. It's a lot of fun and it's great, but how many times have you shown all the food that went to waste after that meal? 40% of food in this country goes to waste. That's something we need to address, which is why I suggest, again, have a dinner party, meet up with people who you can share shift with, but also share your food. Order one meal. You can easily order one one meal and split the bill and still be full in the end. We eat too much, we overconsume. And so, what happens when you share a meal? You lean over and you eat from the same plate, and now you're a lot closer. There's the intimacy there. And then show your empty plate. Show we ate all our food. It's food porn, but now it's environmentally conscious because you've eaten everything.
Yeah, there's a kind of crazy reality in the world that there are a billion people who are obese and a billion people who don't have enough to eat. And it should be so logical to do the right thing, but a lot of the time making eco-responsible choices becomes seen as like a sort of tree hugger alternative thing. How can we change that? Can we make making the right choices actually cool? Can the luxury brands of the future be the brands that do the most good in the world?
Well, first of all, have you ever hugged a tree?
I grew up in the country, so probably.
Highly recommend it. No, seriously, it is energetically fantastic. I don't care what people say. You would think with all the bark and the pokey parts that it would maybe not be that comfortable, but it's amazing to cuddle with a tree. And I think when you get in nature, when you get your hands dirty, when you get down with it, it changes something in you. First of all, you don't want to touch your phone and get distracted when your hands are dirty. But what was the question? The question was, how do we
can we make
trees?
making the right choices be cool? So then the same way everyone runs around the world desperate to have the latest luxury brand, it's actually the brands that are doing good and being a force for good in the world that become the cool brands.
Well, let's think about what cool is, right? What's the history of that word? Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it was like the 50s, right? When we were in a really repressed culture and we wanted to be with the bad boys who were changing culture, who were rebelling against convention. So you want to be cool, let's rebel. Let's do things that are different. Let's not just blindly, do how it's done. Let's start to really connect with a different world that we imagine. And I think that's one of the big issues is, I don't know if you know about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have to aspire for self-actualization, not just being on the lower rungs of this hierarchy where we're just trying to make ends meet, trying to earn a dollar, or buy into the false idea that we can all have a piece of the American dream just by working our asses off and working 5 jobs. I think we need to let go of that false aspiration and start realizing that relationships are more important than money, and we don't need money to make the changes that we want. We just need to get off of that hamster wheel. So I understand that people have basic needs they need fulfilled, but we don't need the SUVs. We don't need all of the things that celebrities tell you want, that Entourage told you need. You don't need the Vinny Chase lifestyle. But at the same time, look at what was important to Vinny Chase. It wasn't all the stuff. It was the boys, right? It was the family, the brotherhood. So I would say reduce what you're consuming, share a lot with each other because you can reduce your costs that way, and then really just make that change that is about actualizing something that is bigger than yourself. And if you go for that, even if you're a little bit hungry and it's a little bit difficult, it'll get you through. What's even more difficult is when you're trying to make ends meet and that's all you care about. It becomes so much more difficult because you don't have anything driving you through those hard parts.
So you coming here today is an enormous help for us. It's fantastic and a huge inspiration to the brilliant young people in the audience. How can we help you with Shift? Is there anything we can do for you?
Well, if you go to shift.com right now, you're going to get just a landing page because we are actually shut down for a brief while because we're reinventing Shift. We've done a lot of online stuff. We've created a lot of content. We've shared a lot of stories of people and business and industry and culture and lifestyle who are making those shifts. but it's all online, and we believe that the next step is to take it offline and allow people to connect more interpersonally. So stay tuned for how that's going to work, but we're hoping to be able to create little clusters of shifty type people to come together and just not that kind of shifty. Stay tuned. But you can sign up for the email list, and we'll let you know what goes on next.
Great, and we can use all of our channels to push that when you're ready as well. Not that you need much help on that score. And then I was interested to read about some of the work you're doing with big businesses and brands, which I thought was fascinating. Maybe you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to work with many corporate sponsors. Shift wouldn't be possible without their support to create the kinds of content to inspire shift. And through all the work I've done, I was I guess Dell noticed me and asked me to be their social good advocate. So almost over a year ago, I became Dell's social good advocate, and they really just asked me to make sure that they're doing everything they can to be the best corporate citizen as possible, and to help them achieve their legacy of good goals by 2020. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll help you do that, but this ain't going to be a greenwashing thing. I've been, worked very hard not to be that guy. I said, I'm going to hold you to account. We're going to have very measurable goals, and also you're going to help me. I'm not just going to help you. We got to help each other. So they've been helping me do the work I've been doing with Lonely Whale. We built a VR experience because we are landlocked here, right? In this arid Arizona, how often do we get to go swimming in the ocean? And yet the oceans are a very big part of my work. We need to really, I think, connect people, but also bond them with the oceans, because if we can't connect, we can't care. And the oceans are people say, is the glass half empty? No, it's 3/4 full of the ocean. We have to protect this thing. It's a major component in the environment, and can actually help sequester a lot of the greenhouse gases if we make sure it's healthy. It could feed the world if we make sure that the fisheries are replenished. So they've been helping me connect people who don't have an opportunity to go swim and bond and find that empathy with the ocean by putting them in a virtual reality experience and get to swim with the lonely whale.
Probably time for one last question. Obviously you're an amazing actor. I think from our perspective, it's the action and what you're doing for good that is the most impressive thing. And it's one of the themes that we keep repeating at One Young World. It's not about having an idea. It's about actually acting. What advice could you give our One Young World delegates and attendees here about acting, or just in general? If you were going to give them one piece of advice, what would that be?
Well, as I said, don't feel as if you have to take the weight of the world on your shoulders. I think that on some level is an act of arrogance, that you can do it alone. No, you can't. We do it together. And Rome wasn't built in a day. Brick by brick, shift by shift. Imagine a shift as that little brick, and just do whatever you can. Yesterday, the day before, I wrote an article for Refinery 29 on plastic straws. So I'm just going to go out with that. See what you can do about getting rid of plastic straws as much as possible in your life, just as a little act. And that is hard enough, but see what you can do. I've been practicing for a while, and I'm not perfect, but I'm getting much better. And now I remember to let the waiter or waitress know, I'm going to do without a straw. Oh, and by the way, the rest of the table is going to do without one as well. Sorry, guys. And then, before you leave, a reminder, no plastic straw. And it's getting better. I've reduced my plastic straws probably by 85% as of late. So join me on that.
Fantastic. Adrian, thank you so much. That was brilliant. Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.